Welcome to the Soul Spiral podcast. Conversations to allow your soul to up-level, grow, and expand your consciousness while having fun along the way. I'm your host, Kristin Edwards. Hello, guys, and welcome back to today's episode of the Soul Spiral. I'm your host, Kristin Edwards. We know this already. But I am here solo today. It is my first solo episode with you guys. And I'm not going to lie, I procrastinated a little bit to get started because I was nervous. But yeah, I've got a few things I want to talk to you about today. And I'm really excited to get into them. But I thought I've never actually truly introduced myself here on this podcast. I mean, a lot of you that listen sort of know me and find me on socials and things like that too. But if you didn't know, I'm Kristin. Hello. And I am a 30-year-old kinesiologist and mind body medicine practitioner on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland. I originally hail from Melbourne, so I have lots of lovely, amazing clients and friends down there, and my family are down in Melbourne. And my partner and I made the move up to the Sunshine Coast last year as we were chasing a warmer climate to live in, considering we mainly eat fruit, and that's more conducive to living healthily for us. But I became a kinesiologist a few years ago. I finished my study in 2018. I got my certificate. I finished my study in 2017, but I got my certificate in 2018. And I've been practicing ever since, or even towards the end of that. And I think it is such a fun modality. If you don't know what kinesiology is, it's identifying stress holding patterns in the body and then using the body as a holistic approach to balance them out. So not just looking at the mind or just the body. So like maybe I'd look at the posture or the chakras or the meridian system or psychology or emotions or energy, whatever comes up is what gets worked on. And so I find it a really holistic treatment because you're looking at the body as a whole, not just as a body or a mind. So, and I find that's just really great. And everyone deals with stress in our life. So it also really aligns with that too. And so as part of the way that I work with the meridian system quite heavily from studying mind-body medicine. Now, I know there can be many different schools of thought in the way to work with the meridian system, but I work on a similar sort of basis to acupuncture, or even like I have some Zen Thai friends, and we definitely speak the same language in what we do. And I wanted to share with you a little bit about the 5-element system today, and also a bit about something called the Bagua, which is not the easiest to find information on, but through where I studied, I learned the Bagua system. And it's pretty much like a system that conceptualizes and includes the 5-element Chinese medicine system, but it branches that out further to connect with what they call the extraordinary vessels, which are different names of meridian system, to give you 3 numbers based on your date of birth. Now, this is based on your a month and year date of birth. There is more levels that you can find in like your year element or your time of day element, more things than that as well. And depending on where you've learned your systems, they could probably be further than that. So at the end of the day, we have all 5 elements within us, just as we have a lung, a large intestine, a stomach, a spleen, a heart, all liver, bladder, kidneys, everything, all the main organs, we have them all. Therefore, we fit into all the 5 elements. So I wanted to break down the different 5 elements and explain to you which organs fit into them and what sort of psychology sits behind that as well. And then I was thinking maybe we can even do a few little fun things where I pick a random thing and we can see. It's like an oracle card in the meridian system for you today listening.
So if I'm a bit wacky and crazy, I am here by myself. So we'll see how this pans out and what it becomes. But yeah, thanks for listening and thanks for joining. It's always great to hear your feedback when you listen to the episodes. I appreciate it so, so much. So yeah, keep sharing, keep listening, and letting me know what you think. So let us start with the name of the 5 elements in the Chinese medicine system. So we have fire, which usually sits at the top of the star. We have earth, we have metal, we have water, and we have wood. So within these 5 elements, we have 12 main organs that we work with in the meridian system. So within fire, we have the heart, the pericardium, which is the heart protector, the small intestine, and the sanjiao or triple heater, which is sort of like the reproductive system. Within earth, we have the stomach and the spleen. Within metal, we have the lung and the large intestine. Within water, we have bladder and kidneys, and obviously the adrenals falling in within the kidneys. And then within wood, we have the liver and the gallbladder. So simple. Okay, that's what we can start as a basis. So within each of these, and I don't know why fire has 4 organs. I actually don't know the answer to that question. If someone does have that, no one's ever asked me that though, so I don't know. It's just something that occurred to my brain. But within each of these elements, we have different virtues. We have different sort of shadow aspects psychologically. We have different times of day that each of these organs turn on to be most online, I guess, in what they see in Chinese medicine. And this system was developed over thousands of years where the Chinese were trying to understand the body in alignment with being in touch with nature. And so that's something that really resonates for me. And I think it really resonates for a lot of people is that we live on this earth and we have our seasons. I love to talk about the seasons. If you haven't heard me speaking about the women's cycle and seasons, go and listen to Sweat It Out, Alex's podcast. But when we live in alignment with these seasons and within nature, we can actually harness our gifts and live a more embodied and full life. And the Chinese medicine system really connects with the seasons and with nature as if our body was a reflection of that. So I think that's really beautiful. And I think a reason why a lot of people really connect with the TCM, traditional Chinese medicine theory. So let's start with fire. So fire, I have a lot of fire in my chart, actually. My time of day is fire, my year is fire, and within my bagua, 2 of my numbers are fire. So I have a lot of fire going on in Chinese medicine. So in fire, the main organ that they focus on is the heart. It's the heart is the ruler. So the body will turn every other kind of like not turn off, but will sacrifice every other organ before it sacrifices the heart. And so that's why when someone goes into cardiac arrest, they pretty much, their system actually shuts down in different ways because the body is trying to save the heart. So the heart is the emperor. If the heart is not cared for and nurtured and looked after, everything else goes out the window. That being said, obviously, depending on what your constitution is, you could have more area of like liver or kidney issues that need to be looked at as a focus. But in Chinese medicine, the heart is the emperor, and it is the place where the spirit resides. So when we can connect with our spirit fully, it allows us to live a more full life. Now, I'm getting a bit esoteric here, but TCM stuff is pretty esoteric when you read it. If you've ever read the I Ching or any of the other sort of things that I work with as well, sometimes it can be very, very esoteric. But within the the heart organ, and within the fire element, we have a few different things. So when we are in balance in fire, we are able to feel joyful and spontaneous, and we can see that we can practice strong and healthy boundaries. We like have that childlike sense of wonder at the world, like that spontaneous spirit and that like feeling of just being able to be clear and know what like is the right action for you. You know, when you're really in your heart and everything's just like, it's like all the doors opening for you, the path is laid out before you, and you're just rolling along, feeling embodied and really like in your sense. That is fire working in a really balanced, beautiful way. Now heart time is actually 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. in the middle of the day. So that's the time our heart is most on, is the best time to be doing things that are in alignment with the heart. When our heart or our fire element is shut down or out of balance, we tend to shut down, and we can feel a real sense of hurt. So the shadow side of fire is this like this imbalance in feeling really submissive or really dominant. Like it can really play out this extremes is the word I'm looking for. So fire has this level of extremes where either it's like everything and it's feeling amazing, or it can be like fully shut down. It's kind of like that all or nothing feeling when people are in that fire element a lot. I know this me, like I think I've called myself this plenty of times. I'm an extremist. Alex likes to say we're purists, but there's this level of like playing into that extremes. And when we are playing into that extremes, it can also throw out our sense of proprietary, so knowing how to act or behave properly. And the other thing that comes through in fire that's maybe not so positive is this aspect of control. Now, water has control too, but it's very different. Control in fire is tending to be with the people around us, or in relationships. So it's come back to this boundary thing and this extreme thing. So people who have a lot of fire can either be really submissive or really dominant. And it's because there's a level of them subconsciously trying to control the other person so that they don't feel unloved. So we come back to this real sense of love and the heart and how we see that with the fire element. And this is kind of giving you the description of like, if you have fire in your chart or in your bagua, or if you're dealing with any issues with the heart or small intestine, you can look at these fire aspects to balance them out. The negative like side effects or like physical things that come up for the fire meridian is like cardiac arrest or heart disease, mental disorders. Your temperature coming in and out can be to do with fire. It can also be to do with the spleen, and it's insomnia and crazy dreams, and the memory are also to do with fire. So that's kind of a little overview of fire. So you might look your thing up and see if you've got fire going on in your chart, or you might really resonate with some of that stuff. As I said, at the end of the day, we have all of the organs, but then we do have some that are our main constitutions, just like astrology. Like we can experience all the zodiac, but we have our main zodiac signs. So let's move on to Earth, because the cycle moves from fire to Earth around the star, otherwise down to metal as well. So Earth, Earth is such, my clients that are Earth are just, I mean, they're all beautiful, obviously, but they just really feel everything. Earth is like that. I always think of it as like the mother element. So it's the stomach and the spleen. And if you think about those aspects, those are very highly to do with digestion. So Earth has a lot to do with our digestive nature, but also our ability to digest life. There's a level of an Earth person would hate someone that's selfish because they really try to be selfless. But often their selflessness is maybe not, if it's at the cost of their own well-being, it's not really selflessness, is what I often have to say. And I have Earth actually in my middle number. I have a combination of Earth and metal. which I'll get to in a little bit. But the key thing for earth types is that they need to act with true intent and remember to choose when they're giving and allow themselves to receive. Earth types often find it really hard to receive, and they have very unbalanced giving and receiving patterns. And their main issues generally center around relationships. So this is like the person that gives and gives and gives and gives with nothing left for themselves. And then they wonder why they fall in a heap. It's like, there's that imbalance of that giving and receiving is a really key thing. So the reason that this throws them out so much is because their giving has a cost, because the reason that they are often giving is because they feel everything. Like they feel when they walk in the room, they can feel like the hurt of others, they can feel the pain, they can feel like they're very sensitive. And so this can mean that they can feel everyone's stuff so much that they want to try and resolve how that person's feeling. So they give and give and give to try and resolve how they're feeling so that then they get some sort of appreciation or gratification in return. But if we think about that, it's kind of like a very roundabout way of giving yourself love and nurturing. Now, if we are giving love and nurturing to ourselves first, if we're an earth type, and then as a result, our cup overflows and we can choose to give to others, then we give from a place of true giving and we use like spiritual energy rather than giving our energy away. And when we do that, we allow other people to take responsibility for their emotions and we allow ourselves to take responsibility for who we are. Because often earth types, like they feel the things of others so much that they almost actually enable people around them by trying to resolve issues. And then they wonder why they run in circles. So there's a real oversensitivity. There's a level of overthinking. So if you notice your mind runs in circles and you're worrying and worrying and worrying, anxiety can fall in there. There's another kind of anxiety that we talk about in wood, but this kind of anxiety is really worry focused and worrying about other people and just kind of that overthinking playing out. You could be looking at needing to give some love and nurturing to yourself to really realign the earth element. And be really true to yourself and ask yourself whether you're in integrity. And sometimes taking some time away from other people allows you to find that. The physical things that come up with earth are digestive issues, like weight issues. So like there's like a physical boundary that comes. So it's either like that, again, that imbalance in giving and receiving and in relationships and being around other people. And then also like feeling really low energy or having like appetite issues. So stomach time is 7 to 9 a.m. And I think, let me look at it in my book. I think it might be, right after. So we've got the earth element playing out from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. So that's a really good time to make sure you have a morning routine and do those things that you need to do for yourself. Tick you off your list first before other people. I know it's hard if you've got kids or family that you have to look after, but even if you just slip in 5 minutes of time that you, as the kettle's boiling or you're making your tea, that you do that stuff for yourself. And just making the time for you is often the hardest thing for earth types. And allowing others to take responsibility for their emotions and not allowing yourself to fall into people pleasing. So after earth, we go into metal. Da-da-da-da. Now, my teachers used to always say to me, "You're so metal, Kristin." No, one of my teachers in particular used to say that to me a lot because it's one of my core numbers, that combination with the earth. And so for metal, we talk about a few different organs being lung and large intestine. So I could talk about metal for so long. Where do I even begin? So metal is a really key aspect of metal is to do with our breathing and our breath. And I've been really connecting to this aspect recently. Even with this last full moon, there's been this real need of sense to like let go and just like breathe into your life. And if you think about the breath, like the breath is what allows our energy to travel around our body. And it's actually the thing that kind of often goes out the window first when we're not feeling good. It's like when you're feeling anxious or stressed, or you're not sure how to respond to something, or like there's tension in your body, check your breath in that moment. Like, are you actually breathing deeply? Because often we'll find that we're not. And when we don't breathe deeply for long enough, we actually take ourselves into fight or flight. We actually put ourselves in a state of like reactiveness rather than being able to flow and be choice led and proactive in the things that we want. So, metal has a great deal to do with this letting go, breathing life in and being able to breathe it out again. So there's this like level of holding on or letting go and wanting to hold on to things, or maybe not be able to let go of things. If we think about that in a physical way, constipation or the breath is a really big thing for metal, and it is large intestine or lung, so makes complete sense. The other thing with metal in terms of symptoms is skin related stuff. So if you know me, and you've seen my story on Instagram, I had a lot of skin and acne related issues, and they were all coming out through this feeling of not noticing myself as worthy, or not believing I'm valuable enough or respected enough, and those sorts of things. And that was really coming out strongly in my skin. Obviously, amongst other things, there was a whole journey of why that was happening. But for me, as my constitution is quite in a large amount in the middle metal, that was what my body was showing up in terms of the way that it pushed things out. So, skin, getting coughs and colds and asthma, having low immunity, and then having like issues with like constipation or a really loose stool. Though loose stool can sometimes be earth as well, but constipation especially is to do with that metal aspect. And so the psychology behind metal is to do with this like this wanting to feel a value in the world and wanting to understand where you fit in. Body dysmorphia comes into metal as well, of the way, because often metal types are either so disconnected from spirit or so connected to spirit that there's a part of them that doesn't like the physical body, or like sees humans as evil or useless, or like has a disgust for the human body, can sometimes play out. It's also to do with grief and loss and guilt. And so grief in the sense that, yeah, not being able to allow grief to move through your system fully because there's a part of you that resists it. There's also this aspect of connecting to the process of death and birth, and understanding like there's more to life than what we're experiencing in our human experience. And we're not just a body, like we're more than just a body. We are a soul, and there are other things that our soul does between lives. Or, I mean, it depends what your belief system is, but my belief system is that we don't just live this one life. Like, we're here to experience many different facets of what it's meant to be as in a human body. Like, we're here in Earth School. And so when we do come through and we have quite a heavy metalness, not heavy metals, but a heavy amount of metal in our constitution, it can be really hard to understand life until we can really conceptualize those things. And so metal clients can often find it really hard when they experience grief, like, or the loss of someone, because they feel like their whole world is ending. So depression comes within metal in terms of that grief and that real sadness. There's this melancholy view. So the way that we can reconfigure metal, besides from breathing deeply, which I'm going to read to you something I wrote about that the other day, is remembering your connection with spirit and knowing that spirit is not outside you, spirit is within you. It's both. And when we constantly perceive it as something that we have to seek externally, we forget that it's within us, and we forget that we can actually receive and experience all those things just by going inward and being with ourselves. And when we have that embodiment of our spirit and we're really connected with that, and we're able to move through life having a deeper faith and having an understanding of like our purpose here, we fully like embody who we're meant to be, and we fully embody the metal element, and we allow this real respect for ourselves, for the planet, and for people around us, because once we fully understand that level of spirit, we can understand that I'm you, you are me, I'm the universe, and all of those sorts of things. So if we're constantly trying to fight against that to keep our individuality, that's often the ego playing out, and something will happen to break that into two, in a sense. So remembering, exploring those concepts and remembering that essence of who we are when we are born and who we are when we're close to death or we die again is that true embodiment of spirit. And there's nothing more beautiful or more deserving of whatever it is that you feel you need to deserve or what you feel you're lacking than when we are in both of those states. So it's a very esoteric aspect metal. Hopefully I haven't lost too many of you. But yeah, I could definitely talk about that for a while. And it's also this remembrance of like the body is not something to be endured, it's something to enjoy. So seeking pleasure and doing body work and yoga and working with the breath. I hated yoga for so long because I couldn't connect with my breath, and I always like had this uncomfortability in my body. But actually, the more that I connected with my breath, the more I actually saw how important and how that was like the most important thing in my life is my breath. Because without it, how long do I live? Like life's over. So if I can have such reverence for my breath, that allowed me to like go deeper with things like yoga. And now it's like I do it every day. Like I love it so much. It's crazy. I had to do 2 water fasts to figure out that I liked yoga because of my breath. But yeah, I want to read to you something I wrote about breathing, because it's just one of those things that I keep coming back to. Breathing is the most important action we take. The simplicity of an inhale and exhale hides a deep complexity. In TCM, the lungs are connected to grief, value, respect, and spirit. The process of birth and death, the beginning and the end of our human experience. The breath carries a thread to guide us. It reminds us we are more than just a body. It also reminds us of the humbleness of our body. It is everything and nothing at the same time. What word is that? It covers us, lifts us, and allows smooth function of humanness. It also is the invisible, the in-between, and grounds while uplifting. Every moment we experience tension, resistance, or something hard, the breath is what moves us through. If we are breathing fully, does the resistance fade? Does the moment have more clarity and ease? Our breath is our guide. Our lungs are our wings to carry us through this life. So let's move on to water. My mum has so much water. I have a little water clients as well. So water is the kidneys and the bladder, and obviously to do with the adrenals. And I did mention earlier, there's a level of water to do with the word control. So not control in the aspect of other people, but control in terms of environment. So there can be anxiety for water in terms of not feeling safe and wanting to control what their environment feels like so that they can feel safe. So there's this level of like making sure everything's in a certain way, or making sure you know how things are going to play out, that kind of level of control. And when that doesn't happen, you get stressed and like it gets thrown out the window. And what happens is fear is a really, really strong emotion associated with the water element, especially the kidneys. Safety is more so bladder, and fear is more so kidneys. And so there's also the other thing that plays out is withdrawal. So sometimes water element people are really good at handling stress, or they seem like they're really good at handling stress or like hard emotions, but they actually withdraw so far from their own emotions that they don't even realize that they're feeling a certain way. There's this level of impotence that happens, like that withdrawal and that almost like fight or flight aspect. And as a result, infertility, developmental delay, impotence can all play out with water in a physical sense. Also lower back pain, edema, like fluid retention, bone issues, those sorts of things are to do with water. So water is the house of our will. and it's a house of us being able to tap into our inner wisdom. When we allow ourselves to connect to our inner wisdom and trust and our intuition and our integrity and our instincts and who we are, then we don't need to control everything. We don't need to worry about what's going on outside us. We don't need to, have the whole plan B and plan A or whatever it is to make sure everything's going to be okay, because we trust the universe and we trust ourselves to know that everything's going to be all right and that we've made it this far. So the thing that sometimes plays out for water is that they are knowledge seekers and they're constantly seeking new knowledge or to find something new or to learn something new. And a part of that is because they don't trust what they know thus far, and they don't trust their instincts or their intuition. And so when we take away this like seeking of knowledge, what's left is there the curious child there that's actually realizing that to seek wisdom is not the way to go about things. The person who is wise, or the sage that is wise, is only wise because they actually realize they don't know anything at the end of the day. And so in the releasing of not knowing anything, there's a real surrender to be able to just trust in what's unfolding and allow yourself to be present to that. Let me check my book here. And so when we can really trust that, then we can manifest our potential really, really wisely and really fully. And we know our real self, and we can actually take action from that space and like follow our heart's desire flows into the fire there to be able to take the action. And so there's a really beautiful poem in the I Ching to do with water. I'm going to surmise it for you, but maybe I will read it on my Instagram if you guys are interested. Let me know. But it talks about how water is yielding and how water can be contained and held by other things, but it also can be flowing. But when there's stagnation in water and it's boxed in by, rocks or whatever other thing that it's being held in place by, when we're feeling in that impotent place of like not even sure where to go, what we can do is we can start small with drops, because once the drops build and they overflow, then the water can flow again. So yeah, it's really, really beautiful in that water aspect. And then lastly, we have the beautiful wood element. So wood is to do with the liver and the gallbladder. The liver being like planning and like kind of direction, and the gallbladder being more decision making. So if you're making a lot of decisions in a week, like especially if you're in a business or whatever it is, Alex often needs help in his gallbladder meridian because he's making so many decisions, especially lately. But they can also manifest in things like headaches and migraines and stiffness in like the upper neck and shoulders can be gallbladder. It can also be metal, but the gallbladder meridian kind of goes all the way from the tops of our ears and the side of our eyes, across like down the side of our head and neck, and all the way down to our feet. The liver and the wood elements also to do with like hormonal and like PMS or like visual problems. All of those sort of aspects play out. So the psychology behind the wood element is to do with anger and frustration and judgment, especially. So there's this level of perfectionism that goes on. So wood can have this anxiety that plays out in the terms of performance anxiety, where it worries it's not going to be good enough, it's never going to be good enough. So it's constantly pushing and pushing and pushing. And there's like a stubbornness that comes with that, to seek this perfectionism that it can never actually reach. So they put so much pressure on themselves and often find it hard to, because they judge themselves so hard, then other people can see their judgment, and this judgment can be reflected back again and again. So the key thing with wood is to release this need for perfection. Now, I don't really have that much wood in my element, in my chart, but I still experience wood a lot. Like clicky joints is a really wood thing, because it's like this rigidity, and we want to encourage more flexibility when we're in wood. So the flexibility and the ability to feel carefree and move beyond stuckness, because stuck is a real key thing for wood. So you're waking up in the morning, you're feeling tired. That's often like a level of stuckness, especially if it continues through the rest of the morning. If you're waking up at 3 in the morning, I tell you that's liver time. 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. is liver time. And there could be repressed anger, there could be frustration that's not being expressed. And so then that allows you to feel like you need to constantly push, and the judgment occurs, and we kind of get stuck in this cycle. So a key thing for wood is to feel courage and feel the ability to have courage to allow more spontaneous flow, let's say, or more flow in the life rather than being so kind of like stuck and rigid and structured. How can you create more flow in your day to day is one way that I look at it. But also being able to see within yourself and see the true beauty in your spirit and trust like the benevolence of who you are, and that everything, like at the end of the day, is here for you. An example that we use in session to connect to wood, because often wood types find it really hard to love themselves or see unconditional love for themselves. And there's a real level of trying to learn this unconditional love for wood. And a good way to practice this is either to look at your children or a pet that you love unconditionally. Now, that doesn't mean that they're perfect. It doesn't mean that they don't piss you off sometimes and you want to scream at them. But it does mean that at the end of the day, you still love them no matter what they do. And that's what unconditional love is. It doesn't mean that you are so perfect that then you deserve love. It means that you are not loved even despite of those things. It's that you're loved even because of your flaws, if that's how you want to see them. So we can do that by looking at our children or a family member or our animals to help us, to teach us unconditional love. Because if your dog is playing with you and it's so loving towards you, but then it like tears up the carpet, like you get angry at it, but you still love your dog at the end of the day. And that's how we can look at bringing that unconditional love into our own hearts. So that's a kind of summation of each of the elements. I didn't even go into the seasons. I think that, we could go so many places with that, and I've already been talking for quite a while. But I did want to explain a little bit more about the Bagua. So in the 5 element system, we look at it as a star, and we have fire at the top, then we have earth to the top right, and then metal down the bottom right, water down the bottom left, and then wood to the middle top left. Goodness me, it's hard to explain things visually, but hopefully that makes sense to everyone. So within this, we've got the 5 elements, but then the Bagua gives us an extended experience of that, and it gives us 9 numbers that fit into those 5 elements. So within the middle, we have the 5. I know it's not going to be in the order number of where everything sits, but just to explain to you. So the 5 in the middle is supposed to conceptualize the whole. So the 5 gives you this level of like connecting to all the different elements. But for the most part, in the teachings that I've learned, it is focused on earth and metal. So that was that number that I mentioned that I have in the middle for me. And so you get these 3 numbers in the Bagua. You get a number which is for your nature, the way that you approach life, a number that sits in the middle, which is you at your core. It's like your life purpose number. And then you have the last number, which is your mind and mundane challenges, or the things that you have to kind of overcome within this life. So each of these, so you might have, water, metal, wood, and you might have all of those things playing out. And so you might relate to all of those aspects. And like I said, there can be time of day, there can be year, all these other different things that play out. And or you could just be living in a more woody time of year and you're experiencing more wood stuff. But it's a really good system to be able to understand more things about yourself psychologically, is what I find. So we have the 5 in the middle, and then the fire up the top is a 9. So 9 as fire is just by itself. And then the other All the other ones have 2 each. Oh no, besides Earth. Earth has its own. So Earth is number 2. Maybe I'll go in the order. So water is number 1. Then we've got Earth is number 2. Then number 3, we have thunder, which is actually within the wood element. We have wind as number 4 in the wood element as well. We have 5 in the middle, I said. And then we have 6 and 7 both in metal. And then 8 we have also in water, but we call it mountain. And then we have 9 in fire. And the 2 that were in metal, 6 and 7, are heaven and lake. Now, I know I'm speaking a complete foreign language to most of you, but don't get bogged down on these finer details. If you did want to have a session, you can speak to me if you want to. I can do Bagua readings. I don't usually do them alone, but I am open to it. It's always fun because I could talk about this stuff for ages. But within each of these elements, they have different aspects. So let's look at mountain. So mountain being that number 8. Mountain has a level of water, but also has a little bit of earth in there. So it plays out this water and earth pattern of, like I spoke before. And then we have like thunder and wind within wood. So both of those aspects playing out this like judgment, like almost inability to take action or express what you truly need because of like your fear of judgment or like not being lovable, all these sorts of things. And metal within, all the metal type stuff too. I realize it probably isn't relevant for me to go through all of that again, but just to give you a little conceptual view of what the Bagua is. So if you did want to work out your Bagua, unfortunately, you can't do it online. You do need to have a session with a practitioner. I don't know, maybe there is books on it. I don't know exactly what book it would be within because it's my teachings as he's put everything together for my course. But the other thing I wanted to do today is I thought it would be fun to find a point on the meridian system for a couple of organs, and we'll just have a read, and I just want to tap into some of the psychology. So I'm feeling drawn to water, and kidney is the first one I've seen here. So let's just pick a random. I'm thinking kidney 2. Kidney 2, that's always sore on my feet. So kidney 2, the kidney meridian starts on the soles of our feet, and the kidney 2 point is just on the side of our foot to the center of the foot, just next to where the ball of the foot is. So you can kind of rub in there and find that sort of area. There's a little bit of a bone that sort of sticks out. So this point is called Blazing Valley. And the psychology behind this point. So if we've got soreness or stuckness through this point, we could relate to some of this psychology. It's actually the fire point on the kidney meridian. And the psychology is afraid to look inside myself, afraid of loving myself or not being loved by others. It's also a fear of rejection, a fear of change and growth. That's very interesting considering mine has been similarly sore. But I've been going through this like fear of approval, like fear of rejection, fear of like showing up. And you guys might notice I've been coming out full force in like expressing myself because of these fears actually. And I realized for so long that I was limiting myself because I was afraid that others would judge me. I was also like, it always comes back to like parental issues. There was a part of me that was afraid that my dad doesn't approve of me and my dad doesn't love me. And yeah, there's been a big part of me moving through those aspects. So that really does make sense and resonate. All right, let's pick something on the fire meridian. I've got the small intestine here. Now, let's do an early point in the small intestine. I'm just going to double check exactly which one I'm looking at here. So the small intestine starts in our little finger, and it travels all the way up the back of the arm, across the back of the shoulder, into the side of the neck and into the ear. Now, I actually was thinking more close to the head points. So there's a point that sits right at the top, the middle of the front of the ear, called small intestine 19. So this is the last point on the small intestine meridian, and it's called the palace of hearing. So by holding these points, it balances all this psychology, is what I forgot to say. So this point helps to calm the mind. It's also good for if you get tinnitus or deafness or loss of hearing, also loss of voice. So the psychology. People betray me when I communicate what is inside my heart. I do not know when to trust. I listen to what is in my heart when making choices for myself. My heart understands what is right. And it's a key point for ear and hearing. So if you've been experiencing the opposition of any of those things and you feel that you need to balance them, or part of you feels that you will betray yourself when you communicate what is in your heart, or people would betray you when you communicate what's inside your heart. Oh, there's a bit of betrayal theme there, a little bit of communication issues. So you can work with that point on that meridian system if you were feeling called. All right, let's do one more. And I'm thinking, actually, maybe I should do one for everything, because then I feel like it's unfair. So I was thinking something on the lung meridian. Let's go with lung one, or let's go with lung 1 or lung 2. So lung 1 is right, it's on your chest, right above where if you pulled your arms into each other and you found the crease of your armpit, lung 1 starts just above there and lung 2 just above it further. So you can target both of those points just by rubbering through that area, and even doing that whilst breathing. We did that at our women's circle on the weekend because we're working with the breath. Was really, really nice. So these points are for, both of them is for grief, value. I do not value myself. I'm better than others. I'm different from others. I'm not good enough. I worry that others may not value what is inside me, and I grieve for others. So just by working with that one point, lung 1, on your meridian system, you can help to alleviate some of those feelings. And the one right above it actually really helps when you have heat in your system that's not being either in your extremities, or it's not being taken to your extremities, especially like your head, like you got a lot of heat in your head. You can work with those lung points. All right, 2 more. Let's do gallbladder. Maybe something in the neck, because how many of us get a tight neck from the types of work we do? How many of us? Most? Gallbladder. Okay. Yes. All right. Let's do gallbladder 1, which is right next to this side, the external side of your eyes. So right where the eye finishes, and you have that tiny little deviation. I'm like, what's the word? Just right underneath where your eyebrow would end, we have gallbladder 1. And this is a meeting point with fire. Of course, I'm picking all the fire things. Gosh. Fiery lady over here. So this is to help with these things. My choices are betrayed by others. I need to take others into account when making choices for myself. I am free to communicate what is in my heart. I choose to be myself with others. So this is a really good point for headache, for eyes, wind, and heat in the system. I wonder if anyone's experiencing any of those things that's listening. And lucky last, let's do earth. Let's do spleen. Let's do spleen in the feet. Let's do spleen on the ankle. Spleen 5 is right at the front of the inside of your ankle. So like you can rub these points while I'm talking about them, guys, just to be, a little bit more interactive. So spleen 5, it's a metal point on the spleen meridian. It's called Shang Mound. It calms the mind. It's also for I let go of my worries, move ahead in life with joy. It's helpful for depression. It's helpful for the need to protect others, and I'm afraid to let go of the past. It's also really good for excessive thinking, nightmares, laughter, melancholy, so balancing either too much of the other, depression, arthritis, fibromyalgia, muscle and bone disorders, stiff and swollen joints, ankle pain, speech, excessive thinking, and mental activity. Wow, really hits the nail on multiple heads. So You can rub these points. You can put essential oils on them. I do whatever comes up in clinic. You can hold these points. So something that's really fun to do is just to connect in with your body a little bit more and even look up and get to know your meridian system better. And then you can even run your hands along the parts in your meridian system. Notice if anything feels lumpy or painful, or you feel drawn to certain areas. And that can really allow you to do some self-healing, hold those points, allow more flow to go through that meridian system and more flow to go through the elements as a result. There's one last thing that I want to talk about, and that is different sounds that are associated with each of the elements. So for fire, if you want to embody more fire and bring more fire in, laughing is the sound or the expression of the fire meridian. Earth is singing. So when we need to balance our earth or bring more earth in, we can sing and allow us to sing in a sing-song voice. And earth people you'll meet often sing in a sing-song voice or have like a sing-songy kind of voice. For metal, it's actually crying, weeping, or sighing. So letting yourself sigh and like cry when you need to. For water, sorry, I'm looking at my chart and I can't read the thing from where I'm sitting. So all these beautiful pauses just to let you fully make the noises. So for water, it's groaning. So there's like a graveliness to voices when people have the water element playing out. So it's like groaning to help to bring that out, or maybe you need to balance it out with an opposing element. And then for wood, we've got shouting, so yelling, expression, and also whispering, so allowing a whisper or a shout. And so wood people sometimes go in between the two as well. So I thought it was just a little fun thing to have to finish off. That is pretty much everything I wanted to cover today. So we've got the 5 elements. We've got fire being the virtue of love and moving past hurt and control. We've got earth, the virtue of nurturing yourself and letting go of selfishness, letting go of overcompensating for other people, letting go of over sympathizing and allowing yourself to feel true empathy and being a little bit removed. Then we've got metal, moving beyond grief and finding value and that connection with spirit, letting go, baby. We've got water, moving beyond fear and impotence and withdrawal to trusting yourself, knowing your inner wisdom and acting on your intuition and instincts. And then we've got wood, moving beyond perfectionism, judgment, anger, and resentment, and allowing yourself to freely flow and find the carefreeness in life. Hope you enjoyed this wonderful solo episode. And yeah, let me know if you liked it and if you'd like me to do more. This was a bit more flowy, you know. I don't want to read on a paper. I just want to speak to you from my heart about the things I know. And so here I am enjoying myself, and I'm going to, see you all again, or hear you all again, and speak with you all again very soon. You've been listening to another awesome conversation with the Soul Spiral podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe and share this with a friend that you feel might benefit. All of our socials and contact is in the show notes, including anything referenced today. Have a beautiful day spiraling with your soul.